Not enough people clearly understand the game-changing potential of the cryptocurrency system. So I decided to make this podcast to shed light on how, right now, it is positioned to be used for either great good or great evil. I personally do not like the phrase cryptocurrency, as it does not fully express the vast potential of the system, and this is a significant cause of the majority of people not clearly understanding it. So hopefully, by the end of this brief overview, you will have a much larger grasp of the system's potential. I am directing this towards people of all levels, whether you are new to crypto or a veteran. Please stick around to the very end because I will speak about some seldom discussed concepts and possible future inventions that do not yet exist, and whoever creates them could become quite wealthy, in my opinion. We are now at a crossroads of human evolution. There is now a fork in the road from which we can go to two completely contrasting outcomes. One, absolute liberty, the other, absolute authoritarianism. And many people, when confronted with those types of extremes, believe that they will synergize into a middle path. But in this case, I disagree. No single thread of advantage can be left for the looters this time. As we all know, there is a caliber of individual that desires to have power over others, and it will be that way until the end of time. These types of individuals will attempt to pull the future of mankind into authoritarianism via this technology, aiming to control the system for their own selfish benefit. This is one digital currency system, the use of which will track and monitor everything you do and every place you go. The transparency will be an invasion, not a privacy, and the ability to make your entire net worth vanish at the push of a button will be in their hands. So look at the distorted world around you and realize how very easy and very possible it is for them to put those final links into place, and know that there are many individuals working at that task right now. If this system is not first embraced by the people and fully taken control of by the people, then the authoritarians will use it to literally enslave the globe. The general phrase cryptocurrency clouds the clear understanding of the potential power that could be in the hands of the people through this system. How it can literally remove the central banks and the stock markets, arguably the biggest evils that are in the world. The corruption that is present in Wall Street, recently exposed by the Wall Street bets, is just the tip of the iceberg. There are plenty of books on the frauds that have been done by the central banks and Wall Street throughout the years since their inception. See the links in the description below. This technology can remove them, and even the majority of the governments of the world. But we need everyone to join the battle, and to do so, they must fully understand what the system actually does and how easily they can contribute. Cryptocurrency is just a small part of a large system. Visualize a global computer made up of the people themselves, each independently contributing to the verification of digital contracts from currency transactions to receipts of work performed. Generally called the blockchain, it is a permanent public record, independently verified by the people themselves in a decentralized manner. Contributing people of this nature are called miners. Miners is another misleading word, as it would be better to call them verifiers or data processors. Regardless, the more people that get involved in this process, the more decentralized the system will become. For if the miners become too few or too unionized, it is no longer decentralized. And this is one of the paths leading to authoritarianism. Now, apart from the blockchain network, the cryptocurrency coins and tokens themselves have the ability to not only be currency, but as some have already demonstrated, to represent actual items. The coins are not only a currency, as in the dollar bills that are in your pocket, but they also could become the stock of a company as well. So it would be the merger of currency and stock into something new. In the future, stock may not exist. A company's stock could become the currency that they issue. Like in the past, a small town had their own currency, and miles away other towns had their own currency. The same with future companies. Each company would have their own currency. So instead of buying stock in the company, you would buy their currency, which would gain or lose value just like a stock does. For example, say you have tokens for a car company whose vehicles are exceptional. If you then trade them with other people as a currency, it would therefore have a decent value. They would still function like stocks, but would be more fluid. People would have a pocket full of companies instead of pennies and printed paper. So there would be various unique representations behind each coin, giving them their unique value. Each coin representing the integrity of the company behind it, their products and services. And that is exactly how any currency works. Regardless of what backs it, it is always backed by faith. And some people stop right there, but there is a step further. What gives the faith? One of the longest standing currency systems was the tally stick, merely a stick of wood that could be broken into pieces and handed out. What gave it its value? What made people have faith in such a strange system? It was because when the stick was broken initially, the king kept the other half, and therefore everyone in the town knew that they could take their part of that stick and go directly to the king himself and present that unique piece, and it would be accepted as payment for taxes or whatever the king had it set up to pay for. So that is what generated the faith. It was that the highest authority would accept it, even though it was just a piece of wood snapped off. The way they knew it wasn't counterfeit is that the break, when put back together, would link up. A simple system that again has relevance for a modern compound cryptography system. So that is an interesting thing. All systems are faith-based, even gold-backed. You have faith that the gold means something, even though it's just gold. So there is always something behind the faith, but it doesn't have to be a solid object like gold or a piece of wood. It could also be the integrity of a person as well. And that is what an IOU is. When you lend someone money, and you know that individual well, and everyone in town also says that he has repaid them, you therefore have faith that you won't lose money. Faith in that man's IOU paper note. So just the integrity of an individual gives value to a currency. A note which you could then trade to another person who also knows that same guy, such as, Tim owes me $10, so take this IOU and you can get the money directly off of Tim. So the integrity of a person gives a currency its value as well. Now go back to the companies. The integrity of a company, the integrity of their products, would give value to their currency. And so would a use value, such as a subway that issues a digital token. They would have a use value to people who use that subway. Perhaps each token goes a mile, so to someone who rides the subway often, that token may have a high value. So it makes currencies amazingly dynamic. Every company could have their own currency. Every product or service could have its own currency. And every person could have their own currency. This encourages people to make their own goods and services, which they then can stamp with the brand of their little company, so their brand becomes their token or coin that they can then put into the market. It might only be a fraction of a penny, but as they get known throughout the digital space and throughout the real world, as in what they are doing and what their product is, the value of their coin could go up. Granted, many may only have relevance within their own communities. Now take an example of a local band who makes a token, and that band gets more and more popular. People would want to use that token if they are fans, or perhaps just collect it into a portfolio of collectibles to gain value as this band goes up in worth. So there is a collectability value, there is an exchangeability value, and additionally, it empowers that band to be able to gain funding just through people buying their coins. So there is also a crowdfunding mechanism as well, on a micro level and a macro level, for the individual or for the large businesses. No need for loans from a banker who only has money because the people have given it to him. Now the people themselves will directly decide who gets their money. So it removes the need for banks or the stock market. The people become their own banks, with their own portfolio filled with however many coins. Some may have thousands, and some may only have a few, or perhaps only one, for those who do not want to be overburdened with variety, such as a universal coin, a benchmark coin, or a zero coin. But more on this later. Now, just like the music band, large organizations also could have a coin. And buying their coin would be supporting their organization. For example, the Salvation Army, or perhaps the Hells Angels, or maybe even a militia. A quick side note here, according to the U.S. Constitution, Article 1, Section 8, the militias are the primary force that is supposed to be permanently funded, and the Army is only supposed to be raised for a maximum of 2 years. It takes 45 minutes to read the United States Constitution, so please read it to see what I am referencing. The militia is the army of the people themselves, the armed citizenry. So the militias, as organizations, could make their own crypto coins, and anyone who wants to support them purchases the coin. For various reasons, it could change in value, but regardless, it supports that organization. This is no different from the local self-funded fire hall, who has to run its own fundraising campaigns. Now, fire halls as well could simply issue a coin. Now consider a self-funded volunteer police force, little different from the volunteer firemen. They too issue a coin and raise funds. At this point, they're basically the militia. So the police of the future very well could be volunteer citizens, just like the volunteer firemen. Those willing and able create a fund, and the more they are supported by the community, the larger their police/militia in that community would be. If you have a community that does not want police, they don't fund them, so they don't have them. It doesn't have to be across the board, as the defund the police movement absurdly asserted. Our community doesn't want police, so the whole world should not have police. That is simply the insanity of disarmament. It is quite simple. If your community wants police, have them. If you don't want them, don't have them. This system would assist that. Even in the case of a split community, half wants police, the other half does not. The amount of funds they could raise would therefore be limited, causing the police in a divided town to be a very limited force, and it would play itself out just as the free market does. Maybe people would begin to like it, or perhaps they would grow tired of it, and it would eventually go to one extreme or the other. This same mechanism could be for everything that your particular community wants, from firemen to various organizations. It truly is direct democracy, but not by vote, but by exactly how the free market works. It is voting by where you put your money, who you support and who you do not support, by the swapping of these various currencies/coins/symbols of support, could very well be the voting mechanism of the future. So this system is not only the bank and the stock market, but it is also the government, and it puts all of those things right into your pocket. Now for the coins that represent products or a physical existing asset, say 1 ounce of gold, these physical asset coins need to be put into circulation under some type of regulatory body. Now, you're listening to a guy who can't stand regulatory bodies, but if you did not do this, you would have people saying that they have coins that are backed by 1 ounce of gold that they really do not. And that goes all the way back to the Wall Street bets and their short stocks, which are a cousin of fractional reserve lending, where the bank lends out money that does not exist while Wall Street sells things they do not have, both distorting the reality of the economy. The possibility to commit these frauds needs to be permanently removed from society, and it can be done through the blockchain by decentralized verification. This creates a need for a whole other protocol. The developers already have a proof of work and a proof of authority. Well, how about a proof of existence? A cryptographic multi-stamp required for each asset coin produced to say verified across the blockchain, such as 7 different highly accredited custodial nodes that physically verify that this piece of gold actually does exist and is tied to only that one coin. Only then independently granting 7 verification stamps per coin, perhaps similar to a sworn licensed notary. And when the buyer goes to collect that real piece of gold, the holder of the gold would have the key to the cryptography that links up to that one coin, just like the tally stick. The holder then burns that coin upon redemption, and all 7 custodial nodes would verify the fact with the buyer as well. That may be a challenge, but whoever streamlines that, I believe their company will have a rather useful service. In this way, the people that have hoards of gold could issue their gold by digital coin, and likewise, oil companies could issue their fuels by coin. Buying large amounts of their fuel coins is in one sense investing, as well as retaining an individual use value. You could hold these coins as an investment, sell them or trade them, or use them at that company's fuel station. Perhaps each coin equals 1 gallon. So if you need 10 gallons of fuel, you would give 10 digital coins to the machine, pump your 10 gallons of fuel, and the machine then alerts the blockchain to burn those specific coins, since the fate of the backing asset is no longer verifiable. So there has to be a decentralized physical reserve verification system before any of those hard assets or commodity coins are released. But I stress, we can't make these things government bodies. You're listening to a minimalist who believes the best thing that could happen to humanity is all government dissolved, and the people themselves communicating through this system then become the government. There can be no outer sphere that has authority over an inner sphere. There must only be one sphere of the people governing themselves, simply by their interactions through the products and services that they are making and trading in the form of these digital coins. It therefore becomes an organic system whose energy freely moves according to the people's wills and desires. It is the archetypal free market system, ensuring accurate price discovery, free from the current distortion of regulations, restrictions, price fixing, and various market manipulations which only exist to funnel money to the few who strive to control the system for their own selfish benefit. And crypto systems can remove all of that, so long as more people get involved in the system. Because as you listen, the concentration of power is growing. The miners already wield substantial power over the crypto space, and their power only grows if they have no competition. So get involved. We have examined that every currency is backed by faith, and behind that faith is integrity of a product, service, individual, or group of individuals. So let us go one step further to the root force that unites them all: labor, human work energy. All of these are representations of human work energy, and the quality of that work gives the value. So this is the root that the benchmark coin needs to be based on. For over a century up to this day, we use the phrase horsepower to determine the value of an engine. Why? Because in those days, everyone knew how much work one average horse could do, so it acted as the benchmark of agreement. So to base a coin on human work energy, the energy that an average man consumes and expends in one day, needs to be made the zero energy value. Once this is accomplished, we would have a benchmark coin off of which all values of all coins could be gauged. For those of you interested in this, I have included a detailed link to how this would be done, for it is far too lengthy a discussion to insert here. So to summarize the use cases thus far, a crypto coin can be used for a currency, collectability, crowdfunding, service, investment, hard asset representation, and even voting. But quite obviously, Wall Street, the central banks, and similar corrupt institutions such as the governments of the world would not want to lose control and power so easily. They will attempt to organize it in a centralized way, regulate it, tax it, concentrate control into key parts of the system, and so on. So we need to make this so decentralized that that is impossible for them to do so. Anonymity in identity and location will assist in that vein. Everyone has the right to be completely anonymous. Some fear this concept and argue, if everyone is anonymous, then anyone could be a thief. Well, if everyone is known, one could be a thief just as well. It's called the government. They have plundered and killed more than anyone throughout history. So whether you can see them or not, it's not going to change anything. But what it does do is it allows the people to be free of their tyranny and looting. There are misconceptions about the blockchain being anonymous and private. On the contrary, it's a privacy nightmare, so much so that you can locate where a transaction came from and even who initiated it. We need to curb that because it is a control mechanism through which some group could assume greater power. So I encourage developers and engineers, inventors, etc. to make, and probably profit substantially from, products that assist the system in being more fully decentralized, placing more power and contribution abilities easily into the hands of the people, while severely impairing any ability to take significant control over individuals or even track them. The POET protocol, proof of elapsed time, can be run on a common CPU and would act as the perfect platform for making each personal computer a micronode to exponentially increase the level of decentralization. As we all know, there are many systems that have software that tracks people in various ways. So also make more methods that make people easily invisible. For example, simply VPNs. Making the use of VPNs common practice will ensure that few know where anybody truly is. On a more sophisticated level, physical links to the internet go right to a house, right to a specific computer. One could create buffer zones where the internet service provider hooks to a building which has a powerful Wi-Fi broadcaster that anyone in the vicinity can receive. But then run a hard line to somewhere completely different, adding 2 levels of location concealment. Say you build a private community of a dozen off-grid homes in a dead zone, where the service providers believe that nothing exists there, being that it is a dead zone. You supply this community with said hard line many miles away from the receiver, thus cloaking the entire community. Perhaps you would supply this community with a similar line from multiple ISPs, ensuring an uninterrupted connection. The primary goal of the decentralized network is circumnavigation, having nothing between you and your goal, and riding on a network built by like-minded individuals. And that is a major hurdle for this system, because the existing infrastructure is predominantly centralized companies that can shut off internet service at will, such as electrical companies and the internet service providers. The greatest danger to the cryptocurrency system is its reliance on electricity and internet. So we have to make micro versions of these things and place them into the hands of the people, to decentralize even the very supporting infrastructure itself, so that no one large group can compromise the system. There would be a wide range of products and services in the creation of fully independent micro networks, literally entire communities off grid with their own electrical generation as well as internet service via the redundancy method I already mentioned. And perhaps with a long chain of Wi Fi broadcasters and receivers, all of which could be token crowd funded. In this way, you are immune to the malicious whims of large centralized companies disabling your electricity and internet. This would be an insurance policy that would keep a system of cryptocurrency generating and flowing within your community, apart from any tie-in you have with a centralized utility. So anywhere we can see mankind depending on a macro source, that is where we have to circumnavigate. Even with water, encourage each homestead to return to rain collection and wells for the same reason. Thus, a sprawling network of self-sufficient, independent microgrids with inherent redundancy due to a modular nature must be amongst the highest priorities to secure the system firmly into the hands of the people. By its very nature, cryptocurrency is unrealized profit, and being so dependent on the grid for its mere existence is a serious hazard. Therefore, other market opportunities would be in the hard asset classes privately accepting crypto in a direct exchange, especially with the essentials such as land. This would improve the liquidity and velocity of crypto, enhance its practical use, thus gaining wide attention, adoption, and firmly solidifying its future. However, I stress that the government and regulations in any way must be perpetually circumnavigated, else the decentralized movement fails its true purpose of giving full power back to the people. Uncompromising, maximum decentralization is needed. Thus, the ability to easily realize crypto off of the network and directly into hard assets in an absolutely private trade is paramount. I hear some of you saying, "You're just trying to get out of taxes." What you firmly need to grasp is that income tax is theft of the fruit of your labor, thus passive slavery, and you should not accept it to any degree for any class of person. Besides Abraham Lincoln taxing everything to support his war, income tax did not firmly exist before the implementation of the Federal Reserve in 1913. And many of the taxes that you pay today are after that criminal cartel got control of the United States. The IRS is simply an arm of the Federal Reserve cartel, and these taxes go to pay the interest on the Fed notes and to fund a radically overinflated and wasteful criminal government. So call them what they are, looters. One of the primary objectives of the true decentralized movement is to collapse the central banking cartel globally, for they are the true tyrants of the world. So stop accepting their theft as okay and stop labeling systems designed to thwart that as wrong. One of our earliest taxes was created by Ben Franklin in Philadelphia. He made it because the streets were dirty and he used to pay a homeless lady to sweep the front of his shop every day, so his shop looked nicer than the front of all the other shops. Soon, all the other shops started paying the lady as well, and they eventually just made a fund that they all paid into and hired multiple people to sweep the entire road all the time. That is how honest taxes came into being. It was because the community themselves had a problem that they needed to solve, so they all willingly contributed into a community pot. This simple system then became distorted into a thieving mechanism veiled behind endless, absurdly wasteful programs, feeding a malignant bureaucracy now over 10 times larger than it needs to be. A quick side note here. In the United States Constitution, Article 1, Section 4, we read, "Congress shall assemble at least once per year." This exhibits well just how small the founders pictured the federal government. Come on, guys, at least once per year. Now, they never leave. So stop giving power to individuals who are not directly involved. Keep decision-making in your local community by issuing project tokens to be funded, such as a road token. If nobody willingly agrees to fund it, the road simply doesn't get built. You must understand and never forget that they have gotten this large and powerful by stealing your money, not upon their own merit. Crypto undoes this, so long as the people take full control over it. So stop accepting their theft and get involved in crypto. Surprisingly, this liberating dream of decentralized currency is actually threatened by Bitcoin. Too many think that Bitcoin is all there is to cryptocurrencies and are additionally unaware of its many contradictions and shortcomings. Bitcoin has become a race of the wealthy because instead of the mining workload being shared, it is literally raced for by a vast amount of extremely expensive machines, completely pushing out the average Joe, centralizing power, control, and wealth into the hands of the miners, thus defeating the entire purpose of crypto. This racing also substantially wastes power, because while using as much power as Las Vegas to perform the race calculations, all of the computing power of the losing computers is literally wasted. Furthermore, the people who make the most money on, and to a large part cause the volatility of Bitcoin, are the more wealthy, who make thousands of dollars per day per Bitcoin by buying low and selling a few $1,000s higher, and often via expensive and accurate trading robots, pumping the price purely for profit and little care for the liberating dream of the system, fleecing the newcomers instead of welcoming them. It has become a wealth siphon, and it is no longer where the true spirit of crypto lies. The image of Bitcoin has been perverted into predominantly a profit-making machine, which draws people into the crypto community with only dollar signs in their eyes and just to Bitcoin. And most of them don't even understand what they are buying. This draws the potential investments away from small startups that need supported to bring further evolution to the system. Additionally, when these profiteers pull out, it crashes the entire system, literally ruining the system they just profited from. So, this huge influx of funds actually doesn't benefit the community. The majority of it just gets locked up solely into Bitcoin, which slows growth. Ideally, it should be the other way around, with the majority going to the small supporting companies. This would make the whole system more dynamic, getting more innovations happening faster. Therefore, I encourage investors to research all of the various coins and realize that many are rather solid companies building the future who desperately need funded. Furthermore, many of these companies have roles and programs to get involved with to literally work in the community in addition to merely investing in it. Future growth depends on supporting these innovative upstarts. And with that done, it would disengage the entire crypto space from this programmed 4-year cycle of boom bust that the crypto community actually accepts. Yes, the entire crypto community is basically slave to Bitcoin's halving algorithm. Many actually plan to sell off on speculated dates, which is basically agreeing to a planned crash. It is preposterous to have an entire market relying on an algorithm. That is essentially programmed seasons of prosperity. This should be encouragement to disengage from Bitcoin and invest in the next generation of startups with faster, fairer, and more efficient protocols such as DAG and POET, which take power from the centralized miners and vastly increase decentralization by allowing even simple personal computers to be contributing nodes, donating whatever percentage of power the user desires. Bitcoin is not the only coin that exists. It was the first, like the Model A, and that is why so much is heavily based upon it, which is not a good thing, as this allows its activity, good or ill, to translate to all other coins. So the stronger alternative coins become, the faster we can move away from Bitcoin tyranny, and that only happens by investing in the alternative coins. So I hope after this brief overview that you now see that there is much more to cryptocurrency than just Bitcoin and the money that can be made from it. It presents a great opportunity to create a liberated globe in harmony, each person becoming their own bank, investor, trader, company, and having a more powerful voice in their community. But that will only happen if everyone gets involved. So of prime importance now is cultivating an educated and involved citizenry. Some of the most lucrative occupations of the future will most likely be hardware and software developers of all types. I have included a link to a free code school that will teach you any coding language for free, as well as a link to free courses in high-end electronics. I have even included a link on how to code your own custom Ethereum token once you learn the ropes, plus many other links. If this discussion expanded your understanding of what crypto's potential really is and what can be done with it, please share it. The visualization of this image needs to be in the minds of everyone, else it will not manifest. The greatest power of mankind is their mind, and the images that they hold in their mind. If you choose to have no vision and no thought about the future, then those few who are visualizing a darker outcome will easily prevail. So please share this video and paint this image of liberty in the minds of everyone you possibly can, and in that way, it will manifest. Thank you for listening.